So the first thing I would like to do is take age out of the equation. So basically, all through my career, I never heard of anyone getting turned down because they was too old. So I've never heard of it. If you heard of it, please leave it in the comments. But I've never saw anyone that say they didn't get a job because they were too old. Because when you think about it, in the IT industry, basically, a lot of times it's not real. It's not no manual labor like that. You know, if you're a networking, of course, you're going to rack and stack, but that's not every day. So a lot of times it's mostly sedentary. If you look at most people in IT, most of us, if you can look at me, you can tell I'm a little bit out of shape. So a lot of times, like I said, those jobs are mainly sedentary. So I've never saw anyone that say they didn't get a job because of their age. And then also with that being said, the main thing that most employers would be thinking about from my standpoint is, do you know the material? Can you solve that problem? You know, most of the time, if you're going for an interview, you're going for a job, a particular role. Most of the time, if you take it all, strip everything, strip that job description away, it solves that. It goes down to just the basics of this employer has a problem and they want to know, can you help solve that problem? So as long as you're able to solve that problem, long as you know your material, long as you're a good candidate, long as you do good in the interview, a lot of times I can't see why, because of your age, that you would get turned down for a job. So at first, like I said, let's take age out of the equation because that's something I never ran into yet. You know, that's something I've never heard of from a lot of my friends. So the first thing is, like I said, we're going to take age out of the equation. So now that we got age out of the equation, I want to move on and talk about why I think networking still matters and why I think the CCST is a smart move for you. So looking at some benefits of networking and why I think it's okay to go ahead and go towards that CCST is basically we have to start from somewhere. So we have to start from somewhere. So if we're starting from somewhere, why not start with the foundation? So a lot of times that foundation in IT is basically networking. So everything builds off of that network. You can't think of no kind of industry in IT, networking, cybersecurity, server. Each one of those has a networking component. Even when you move into the cloud, you still have that networking component to the cloud. So if you're building a house, build that solid foundation. And what we're doing here, we're building our own house, and we're starting with that foundation, which is that foundation, in my eyes, is networking. So like I said, the first thing is, if we're going to start from somewhere with no experience, learn the foundation, which in my eyes, that foundation is networking.